My hands trembled as I stood in the library, the air heavy with the scent of old books and betrayal. Clara, my son's widow, slid a crisp eviction notice across the polished oak table. Her words echoed in my mind. This house was meant for a family, not a retired relic clinging to the past. I'm Dolores Kim, 71 years old, a retired law professor. My son, my only child, died in a car accident 2 years ago. This house, our 3-story home, carries his memory in every corner. Now Clara wanted me out in 30 days. Why? What had I missed in her calculated smiles? The question gnawed at me, sharp as the cold draft seeping through the window. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. If this story's grabbing you, hit that like button to let us know. The library felt like a battlefield. Clara stood there, her posture rigid, her eyes gleaming with a confidence that didn't match the grieving daughter-in-law I thought I knew. I remembered the day she married my son, her vows soft and tearful under the summer sun. Had that been a lie too? The eviction notice stared up at me, its black ink stark against the white paper. My fingers brushed the table's edge, worn smooth by years of my son's laughter and my late-night study sessions. This house wasn't just bricks and mortar, it was our legacy. Clara's demand wasn't just cruel, it felt like theft. I tried to speak, but my throat tightened. Clara, this house is in my name too, I managed, my voice low but steady. She smirked, her manicured nails tapping the table. Check the documents, Dolores. It's mine now. Her words hit like a slap, but something was off. The signature on the paper, my son's name, scrawled in a way that didn't match his careful hand. I'd seen his signature 1,000 times on birthday cards, legal forms, even the deed to this house. My heart pounded, a dull thud against my ribs. Was she forging documents? The thought sparked a fire in me, one I hadn't felt since my days in the courtroom. I sat alone in my bedroom, the faint scent of lavender from my son's old candle lingering in the air. The eviction notice lay folded on my nightstand, its edges sharp as the betrayal it carried. How had it come to this? Clara's words in the library echoed cold and final, but my mind drifted back to the years before. Years of sacrifice, love, and promises I thought were unbreakable. Why had I poured so much into her, only to face this? The question tugged at my heart, pulling me into memories I'd buried deep. The house was quiet now, but it hadn't always been. I closed my eyes and the past rushed in. 20 years ago, I was a law professor, my days filled with lectures and my nights with case files. My son David was a teenager then, his laughter bouncing off these walls. When he brought Clara home, a shy college student with dreams bigger than her small-town roots, I saw myself in her ambition. I welcomed her, opened my home, my heart. I remembered the night she graduated, her cap slightly askew, her smile bright under the porch light. You're family now, I told her, my voice thick with pride. She hugged me, her perfume sharp and floral, promising she'd never forget my support. Had that been real, or just the first layer of her mask? I sacrificed so much for them. After David's father left, I worked late into the night, my eyes burning from the glow of my desk lamp. I paid for Clara's law school applications, her textbooks, even her wedding dress. The fabric had felt soft under my fingers as I helped her try it on, the silk cool against my skin. I thought I was building a family, not a debt she'd one day weaponize. My inner voice whispered now, bitter and low. Did she ever care? Or was I just a stepping stone? The thought stung like salt in an old wound. I walked to the attic, the stairs creaking under my weight. Dust motes danced in the slanted light from a small window, and I pulled out a box of David's things, his old journals, photos, legal documents. My fingers traced his handwriting, steady and precise, so unlike the scrawl on Clara's eviction notice. I remembered teaching him to sign his name, my hand guiding his over lined paper. Make it yours, David, I'd said, smiling as he practiced. That memory felt like a lifeline now, a reminder of why this house mattered. It wasn't just mine, it was his, our shared history etched into every wall. Clara had changed after David's accident. She'd been distant, her visits rare, her calls curt. I'd chalked it up to grief, but now I wondered, Had she been planning this all along? I recalled a moment last year, her voice sharp over coffee in the kitchen. "You should downsize, Dolores," she'd said, stirring her mug, the spoon clinking like a warning bell. "This house is too big for one person." I'd brushed it off, but the memory now felt heavy, like damp air before a storm. Was that when she started scheming? My hands tightened around a photo of David and me, standing in the garden, the sun warm on our faces. I'd given Clara everything, my trust, my home, my son's love. Yet here I was, facing eviction from the place I'd built with him. The ache in my chest grew, not just for the house, but for the family I thought we were. I set the photo down, the frame cool against my palm. Clara's betrayal wasn't just about property, it was personal. What had I missed in her eyes all those years? The question lingered, pulling me toward a truth I wasn't sure I was ready to face. The air in my study felt thick, like the moment before a storm breaks. I stood over my desk, the eviction notice spread out beside a stack of legal files I'd pulled from storage. Clara's forged signature glared up at me, a clumsy imitation of my son's hand. How dare she? The question burned in my chest, fueling a rage I hadn't felt in years. I'd spent decades teaching law, dissecting fraud cases with surgical precision, and now Clara thought she could outsmart me in my own home. What would I do with this truth, and how far was she willing to go? My fingers traced the forged signature, the ink uneven under the desk lamp's harsh light. I remembered a case from my teaching days, a student presenting a forged contract in class. "Look for the tells," I'd said, pointing to shaky lines and mismatched loops. The memory hit hard. Clara's forgery was sloppy, desperate. I could prove it, but confronting her directly felt risky. Her words in the library, "This house is mine now," echoed in my mind, sharp as broken glass. She'd played the grieving widow so well, her tears at David's funeral glistening under the church's stained glass light. Had that been a performance too? I needed answers. I called Clara, my voice steady despite the pulse hammering in my ears. "We need to talk," I said. She arrived at the house an hour later, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor like a metronome of defiance. The living room felt colder with her in it, the fireplace unlit, shadows pooling in the corners. "What's this about, Dolores?" she asked, her tone smooth, almost bored. I slid the eviction notice across the coffee table, my eyes locked on hers. "This signature isn't David's," I said. Her face didn't change, but her fingers twitched, betraying her. "You're mistaken," she replied, her voice tight. "He signed it before." She trailed off, her eyes darting to the side. The lie hung heavy, like damp air after rain. I pressed harder. "I've seen his signature, Clara. I taught him how to write it." My mind flashed back to a summer afternoon. David at the kitchen table, his teenage hand wobbling as he practiced his name under my guidance. The pencil scratched softly, a sound of trust and love. Now Clara's forgery mocked that memory. "You're grasping at straws," she snapped, standing abruptly, her chair scraping the floor. "This house belongs to me. You're just old." Her words cut deep, but I saw it then, the flicker of fear in her eyes. She knew I was close to unraveling her. I didn't back down. "I'm taking this to court," I said, my voice low, each word deliberate. Clara laughed, but it was hollow, like wind through an empty room. "Good luck, Dolores. No one will believe you over me." She turned to leave, her silhouette sharp against the dim hallway light. My heart raced, not with fear, but with clarity. She'd underestimated me, but what was her next move? The question clung to me, cold and unyielding, as I stared at the forged document. This wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about justice. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments. The weight of Clara's betrayal settled into my bones, heavy as the legal files stacked on my desk. Her forged signature, a clumsy lie, stared up at me, but her words, "No one will believe you," echoed louder. Could I outsmart her in a game she'd clearly been planning for years? The question pulsed through me, sharp and urgent as I paced the study. The air smelled faintly of ink and old paper. the kind of scent that had always grounded me during late-night case prep. I wasn't the retired relic Clara mocked. I was Dolores Kim, a law professor who'd faced sharper opponents in courtrooms. It was time to fight back. I needed a plan, and I couldn't do it alone. I called Margaret, an old colleague from the law school, her voice still crisp and commanding despite her retirement. We met at a quiet cafe downtown, the clink of coffee cups and the hum of conversation wrapping around us like a shield. The morning light filtered through the window, casting long shadows across the table where I spread out the forged eviction notice. "Clara's trying to steal my home," I said, my voice steady but tight. Margaret's eyes narrowed, scanning the document. "This signature's a mess," she said, her pen tapping the paper rhythmically. "You've got her, Dolores, but you need hard evidence, the original deed, witness statements, anything to bury this forgery." Her words sparked a memory. Years ago, after David's accident, I'd locked the house's original deed in a safe deposit box. I could still feel the cold metal key in my hand, the bank vault's sterile air chilling my skin as I secured it. "Always protect what's yours," I'd told myself. A lesson from my mother's voice echoing through time. That key was my lifeline now. I leaned toward Margaret, my pulse quickening. "I have the deed," I whispered. "It's in my name and David's, notarized and untouchable." She nodded, a glint of approval in her eyes. "Get it, then we'll draft a motion to challenge her claim in court." We spent hours mapping out the plan. I'd retrieve the deed, cross-reference it with public records, and hire a handwriting expert to expose Clara's forgery. Every step felt like a chess move, calculated and precise. The cafe's warmth faded as I imagined facing Clara in court, her smug smile crumbling. My hands tightened around my coffee cup, the ceramic cool against my palms, but doubt crept in, cold as the draft under the cafe door. What if Clara had more tricks up her sleeve? Her confidence wasn't just bravado. She'd planned this. I pushed the thought aside, focusing on Margaret's voice. "You taught me to fight dirty but fair," she said, a faint smile breaking through. "Clara won't see this coming." I left the cafe with a fire in my chest, not rage, but purpose. The street outside buzzed with life, car horns and footsteps blending into a chaotic rhythm. I clutched the folder with Clara's forged notice, its edges crinkling under my grip. My plan was taking shape, but it wasn't foolproof. Clara had underestimated me, but she wasn't careless. What else was she hiding, and would my evidence be enough? The question hung like a shadow, following me as I stepped into the chilly morning air. One wrong move and I could lose everything. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and tension, the kind that hums in your bones before a storm breaks. I stood at the plaintiff's table, my hands steady on the folder containing the original deed and the handwriting expert's report. Clara sat across the room, her posture perfect, her eyes fixed on the judge like she could charm her way out of this. Could I finally expose her and reclaim my home? The question fueled every step I'd taken to get here, and now the moment of truth loomed. The judge's gavel cracked, sharp as a gunshot, silencing the room. My heart pounded, each beat loud in my ears. I'd spent weeks preparing, retrieving the deed from the safe deposit box, its paper crisp and heavy with history. I remembered the day David and I signed it, his smile bright under the notary's fluorescent lights. "This house is ours, Mom," he'd said, his voice warm with pride. That memory anchored me now as I faced Clara's lie. My lawyer, Margaret's recommendation, called me to the stand. The courtroom's air felt warm, almost stifling, as I swore the oath, my voice clear despite the knot in my throat. "Mrs. Kim, can you confirm the authenticity of the deed?" he asked. I nodded, sliding the original document forward. "This is the deed to my home, signed by my son and me in 2005, I said. "The signature on Clara's eviction notice doesn't match his." The handwriting expert took the stand next, his analysis meticulous. The forged signature's loops were too wide, the pressure uneven. Clara shifted in her seat, her fingers twisting a pen. I caught her glance, and for the first time her confidence cracked, a flicker of panic in her eyes. Clara's lawyer tried to counter, claiming the eviction notice was a misunderstanding, but the judge's expression hardened. Mrs. Kim has provided compelling evidence, she said, her voice steady, slicing through the room's tension. I glanced at the gallery, where Margaret sat, her nod a quiet encouragement. The air seemed to lighten, like sunlight breaking through clouds. I recalled my old courtroom days, standing before students, teaching them to trust evidence over emotion. Truth speaks loudest, I told them. Now it was speaking for me. The judge called Clara to explain. Her voice wavered as she insisted David had signed the notice before his death. He wanted me to have the house, she said, her words brittle, like thin ice. I leaned forward, my hands gripping the table's edge, the wood smooth under my palms. The judge held up the forged document, then the original deed, her eyes narrowing. These signatures don't match, she declared. Mrs. Kim's evidence is conclusive. The eviction notice is invalid, and I'm referring this matter for investigation into document fraud. A murmur rippled through the courtroom, and my chest loosened, the weight of months lifting. Clara's face paled, her mask of composure gone. She'd underestimated me, but the truth had won. If you're cheering for my victory, smash that like button. What do you think about this moment of justice? Let us know in the comments. The courtroom victory still glowed in my chest, warm as the sunlight streaming through my bedroom window. I sat on the edge of my bed, the soft cotton of the quilt grounding me as I held a photo of David, his smile frozen in time. The house was mine again, but what had I learned from this fight? The question settled over me, quiet but insistent, like the rustle of leaves outside. Clara's betrayal had shaken me, but it also woke something deeper, a strength I'd forgotten I had. I walked to the garden, the air sweet with the scent of roses David and I had planted years ago. Their petals brushed my fingers, soft and cool, pulling me back to a spring afternoon when he was alive. We'd knelt in the dirt, his laughter bright as he teased me about my muddy gloves. "You're tougher than you look, Mom," he'd said, his voice warm with pride. That memory wrapped around me now, a reminder that this house wasn't just a place, it was a piece of him, of us. Clara had tried to take that, but I'd fought back. And in that fight, I'd found myself again. I met Margaret at the park later that day, the breeze carrying the faint hum of distant traffic. We sat on a bench, the wood worn smooth under my hands. "You did it, Dolores," she said, her voice steady, like a mentor proud of her student. "Thank you for being there," I replied, my words heavy with gratitude. "I couldn't have faced Clara without you." She smiled, her eyes crinkling. "You had it in you all along." Her words sank in, stirring something I hadn't felt in years, confidence, not just in my legal skills, but in who I was. The betrayal had hurt, but it also carved a path to this moment, where I stood stronger. I thought about Clara, her face in court as the judge exposed her fraud. My anger had faded, replaced by a quiet resolve. I didn't hate her anymore. I pitied her. She'd built her life on lies while I'd rebuilt mine on truth. My inner voice whispered, steady and clear, "You're not just a widow or a mother. You're Dolores, and you're enough." The realization felt like sunlight breaking through fog, warm and clarifying. I'd spent years giving to others, David, Clara, my students, but now I saw the strength in giving to myself. The park's golden light bathed the trees, their leaves rustling softly, like a chorus of approval. I stood, my shoulders lighter than they'd been in months. This journey wasn't just about saving my home, it was about rediscovering my worth. What lesson did you take away from my journey? Share it in the comments. If this story inspired you, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. The morning sun spilled through my kitchen window, painting the room in hues of gold. I sat at the table, a steaming mug of tea warming my hands, its chamomile scent soft and soothing. The house was quiet, but it felt alive again, filled with memories of David and the strength I'd rediscovered. Clara's betrayal had nearly taken this from me, but I'd fought back and won. What was the biggest lesson this journey taught me? The question lingered, as gentle as the steam rising from my cup, guiding me to a truth I was ready to share. I walked through the house, my footsteps soft on the hardwood floor. Each room held a piece of my past, David's old drawings on the fridge, the bookshelf where we'd read together. I paused at the library, the place where Clara's eviction notice had shattered my world. That moment felt distant now, like a storm that had passed. I remembered the night David died, the hospital's sterile smell burning my lungs as I held his hand. "You're the strongest person I know, Mom," he'd whispered, his voice faint but sure. That memory, once painful, now felt like a gift, a reminder of the resilience he saw in me. I met Margaret one last time at the community center, where I'd started teaching free classes on legal rights for seniors. The room buzzed with voices, the air warm with the scent of coffee and paper. "You're giving back, Dolores," Margaret said, her smile proud. "This is who you are." I nodded, my heart full. "It's what David would have wanted," I replied, my voice steady. Teaching others felt like honoring him, turning my pain into purpose. I'd spent years fighting for my son, then for this house, but now I was fighting for myself and for others like me. As I spoke to the class, their faces eager and attentive, I realized Clara's betrayal had been a cruel but necessary spark. It forced me to see my own worth, to stand tall at 71 when I could have crumbled. My inner voice spoke clearly. Knowledge is your weapon, and silence your strength when you choose your moment. I'd been silent long enough, waiting for the right time to strike. Now I was loud, not with anger, but with purpose. The sunlight outside glowed, warm and steady, like the life I was rebuilding. Don't miss more stories like this. Hit that subscribe button now. If this story moved you, share it with someone who'd love it. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.